Good morning, everybody. At least it's morning for me. How are you? Maybe this is a cozy nighttime for you as you watch this and join me. I'm excited about what I'm going to share today. I hope I can be succinct. But it's stories. So sometimes with stories I go a little long. Anyway, let's get right to it. The last couple of mornings, I, for whatever reason, pulled out my journal from a retreat that I had taken in 2019, May of 2019. And it was so good to reread the stuff. It's like I needed it today. I need it for today. So let me tell you the story about, it's just pieces. There's so much that I could tell, and I kind of hope maybe to write a brief book about it someday or something. But I arrived at the place, and you go through this private gate, and it closes behind you, and then you drive up a curvy road. And after I checked in, I continued on the curvy road, and boom, in front of my car, not like in the road, just off by himself, was this guy. Okay, look at my high-tech ways of sharing. This guy, look at him. He is so gorgeous. He has like that sort of mask look, kind of scary dude. Where's my other picture? Oh, I have to show you the other one. It's more sharp looking. Look at him, look at him. Anyway, and because he was all by himself and he was the only thing that I saw on my drive up to the cabin, I thought, oh, I bet that's going to figure into my retreat. Because that's how God is. Usually, sometimes, maybe sometime he'll just be really quiet at a retreat, and I'm sure that has reasons too. But usually, he's like communicating with me. It's really fun. It's like what you'd really long for. It's what you're meant for. So I took note. Ow. And I thought, I'm gonna watch for this. I wonder. So one day, one of the first times I met with Nancy, who's my spiritual director, she's a wonderful woman, around 80 years old, and she is so powerful and insightful and loving. So I always look forward to how God's going to use her in the things he wants to speak to me. So anyway, we were talking about what I call the cronies. So this is an ugly voice in my head, and maybe it was maybe the year before I had given that voice a name, and at first it was the Murdstones, who are Charles Dickens characters. I think I might have told you this before in another video, and then to make them not so sinister and ominous, I changed the Murdstones to the Stony Cronies. And then I changed it to the Cronies because that was just easier. So anyway, the Cronies are this pretty constant naysaying voice in my head. And they discount me, they deride me, and they introduce doubt. So 3 Ds. They discount, they deride, and they cause doubt. Doubt about lots of things. Myself and my own thoughts about God. Did God really say? And also doubts about others, Oh yeah, they said that positive thing, but maybe they were just being nice, or whatever. So it's really sinister though, because it sucks the motivation out of me. It sucks the joy if I'm like joyful about having some motivation to bring something to the world, and then they just come in and just suck it out, or the joy in something that I'm doing in relationship or in creative work, they suck the joy. So she said, what do you think about introducing the cronies to God? I was like, I had this immediate bolt go through me like, yes, why haven't I done this before? Why have I kept them separate? And so, that evening, I went back to my little cabin, and how did I do it? I put 2 chairs at the dining table. There's a little round dining table, and it has 2 chairs, and I put them side by side, and that was going to be the cronies, because it's 2. It's an evil brother and his evil sister. And so I put them there, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And so I went, and there's a kneeler in the cabin, and I went and knelt on the kneeler, and it looks out on the little porch in the back. And so, I had my head bowed, and I was like, Lord, how am I going to do this? What am I going to say? Are you going to talk? How am I going to know what you're saying, and what am I going to do? And I had my head bowed, and I opened my eyes, and there, outside the window, so there's a window, but I saw through the window to the porch floor, and there was this ugly little worm out there. And he had a red head and a red tail. And the important thing is that on my very first retreat, there had been this big, about this big, red-headed, can't remember what it's called, but this looked just like him, but little tiny. And I had, at the first retreat, I had felt like that guy out on my porch, after a very important spiritual moment, seemed like a representation of the serpent. And so that is its own story. But this is this little guy, this little wormy guy, evil. So I was like, oh no. And I went out to the shed and tried to find some spray, and there was no spray. And so I tried to find a broom, but there was something wrong with the broom that wasn't gonna work. And so I had to use my sandal, and I went out there, and it's ridiculous, because it wasn't like he was fast or anything. He was just sitting there. But I got scared, and so I got my heel of my sandal, and I killed him, squished him, and his guts went flying onto the concrete floor. And so I got the broom, and I put him into the thing, and the dustpan, and I hated that I was connected to him, but I was like, yes. And I ran out into the woods and threw him out there. And when I was coming back in, I thought of the scripture of, he will crush his head with his heel. And it did say in that scripture, but he will bite the heel anyway. But that was taken care of with the cross. So I crushed him with the heel, and I felt like it was God telling me, come on, you can do this. And so I went back into the room, opened the door, and I went in there, and I said, I don't know, something like, you two, you will have no sway with me anymore. Enough is enough. and I took one of the chairs and I ruffled it around. I ruffled it around. I carried it over to the door and I said, "Get out of here." And I went back over to the other chair and I said, "No more will you speak to me lies." Took the chair and I went, and I opened the door. I mean, the door was open already. And I went out on the patio with the open door and I went, "Get out of here. And, in the name of Jesus, out. You'll never come back in here again." And if you've ever seen Mickey Blue Eyes, I did what Mickey Blue Eyes. I said what Mickey Blue Eyes says in the really hilarious scene where it's what's his name? Hugh Grant. And he's supposed to be a mafia guy, and so he's having to play the part, and he kicks a guy out the door, and he says, "You British is all the same." He's trying to act like he's not British, and this was a British guy he kicked out the door. And he said, "You British is all the same. Get out of here, you beep hole." But I've always loved that so much. Our family knows all the lines. And so I told the cronies, "Get out of here, you a-holes." And so it was so exciting and it was so fun. And I felt so empowered and alive, and it was really cool. So that was the night after I'd seen Nancy. So the next day, I was gonna go see Nancy again, and I thought, I'm gonna take a walk before I go see Nancy. I had some time. So I started down, it's about, I don't know, a mile or so. You go down the hill and then you come back up. You go over the river and you come back up. So anyway, I got down one hill and came to a field, and boom, there was the black buck antelope. And I was like, "Oh, Lord, why is he important?" And so I went around the big field and I went over the river and I took a right and I was walking up a different hill, and there he was again. And I was like, "Okay, Lord, what? What does it mean?" And so I was like, "Now, if you do this 3 times on this walk, that's going to mean something. I'm going to really be listening." And so I decided, turned around to go back home. You have to go back up. And so I went all the way up, and I was like, "Well, Lord, I mean, 2 times, that's kind of a message, but 3 would really be a message." And so, if you're trying to tell me something. And so I got up to the hill, to the driveway, to the cabin, and oh well. I'm gonna go in and get my purse and get the keys and go see Nancy, drive down. So I was like, "Oh well." So I got in the car and I backed out of the little place and started to go forward right on the street by my cabin. And out from the woods leapt the black buck antelope and went across in front of my car. And I had to put on the brakes. And I was like, okay, what is the message, Lord? And so I went to see Nancy, and I told her about the kicking out the cronies, and I even told her about the a-hole word. And I'm such a nerd. No, goody. I'm such a goody. Anyway, and so, and I also told her about the 3 sightings of the black buck antelope. And she kind of asked me, what do you see in him? And I was like, "He's so beautiful. he has like that war paint on his face and on his body. And she was like, oh, war. And so, you know, she had already talked to me about, for whatever reason, she had brought up in one of our previous sessions about the Israelites having to take the land. And I never liked thinking about that. And so I had kind of been like, yeah, because I don't like war. So I don't like thinking about the Israelites warring. And so, but it had kind of begun to, I had begun to think about it. Like, well, what is my battle? And God went before them, but they had to work at it. They had to fight. I don't like being a fighter. So, but when I said, you know, wow, the war paint, and I was like, I don't feel very strong. And she was like, you are strong. Look what you did last night. And, you know, look what all the ways you fought for your clients in counseling, and for your kids and your grandkids, and the people in your churches, you know, and anyway, stuff like that. And so, but she was like, look, your battle is with the cronies. That is the fight of your life, Jamie. The cronies, they are trying to take from you what God has made you to be and what he has for you in this life, living this life. And, hold on. Maybe I'll edit this out, but maybe I won't get to it. Anyway, and she said, your fight is against whatever, hell, hold on. Your fight is against whatever would come against your being open to God at work in you and through you. So like my fight is against the cronies, because they try to steal and deaden the aliveness in me. Basically that. And so I was like on my way back, driving up the hill, like, and so yeah, she also said that when let's see. Yeah. She said, do you know how much I hate the cronies? At one point when I was like saying, you know, I just feel like maybe my passion is misplaced. You know, like maybe that's what young people are supposed to be. And I'm showing a lack of maturity. And I'm sitting there saying these things. This is before I left and did this in the car, back in the room with her. She said, do you know how much I hate the cronies? That's what she said. I thought she was going to say something like, well, yes, Jamie, that's kind of unattractive, that passion of yours, you know, or whatever. And her just saying, do you know how much I hate them? Because of what they take from you. She didn't have to say that part. I knew what she meant. And then she said, if I say something that you feel I'm like saying a crony thing, like you might interpret it as a crony thing, I see you turn gray. It's like, where did you go? You turned gray. Isn't that amazing? We've got to say these things to each other. I could feel it, and I was so grateful she saw it and called it forth for us both to look at, so that the cronies couldn't keep me hidden in a closet with this grayness. So, in 2019, in December, I was diagnosed with cancer, with lymphoma. And there was so much language around me at the time and during my treatment months of, like, the t-shirt that the cancer center gave me was "Fight Cancer." And people would say, you know, "You're gonna kick its butt," and all this kind of language, which was sweet because people are trying to cheer you on, and that's kind of the cancer language. But I didn't connect with that at all. I felt completely carried like a baby. And it was such an awesome way to go through cancer. But I still had the fight of my life, which was not cancer, but the cronies during cancer. And the cool thing was that God did a blitzkrieg in the war against the cronies, kind of a shock and awe, which was what they called it in one of the wars that I've been alive for, which is kind of horrible if you think about it for war. But if you think about it for spiritual war, it's awesome. God did a blitzkrieg against the cronies through cancer because I had so many voices that were saying to me the truth of my value, the truth of my beauty, the truth of how my life matters, that, man, it took them down. And it was like I wish I could think of the terminology. I guess a blitzkrieg could work because you might still have a big battle left. I mean, a big war left, and that's one of the battles. That was a huge battle. Oh my God, there went a hawk. Woo. Cool. It flew like right in my window, and I saw the underside, and it had the pretty tail and all the white. I think God is affirming this. Hawks are something that God often uses to speak to me. Well, anyway, I'm telling you, people, God is alive and well, and He wants to communicate with us. We've got to believe it and open our ears and our eyes to see what He's doing. It's like what you are taught to do on retreat, but we need to do it in our real lives. That's where God is. So anyway, what is your battle against? You may think it's against cancer or a divorce court or something like that, but I would venture to say it's something else. What is the thing that is coming against you being open to God and all that He wants to do in and through you? What is that thing? And I'm telling you, hate it and let your friends hate it. Tell them about it. Put on your war paint and go against it. Even if that is partially in turning away from it and, yeah, you're stupid. I'm not going to listen to you. Even if it's being like a baby in the arms of God, that can be types of fighting. Sometimes it's doing what I did with the chairs and the get out of here. So it's all fun journey with God, figuring this stuff out and living it out and doing it. So good luck, my friends. Thanks for being with me. I'd love to sit and have coffee with you and hear about your stuff. So if you'll want, I'd like to hear it in a comment. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel where I put these, you can set up notifications where you get a little red notice or whatever if you want sounds. Okay, and you'll know I've got another one. Share if you would too. Bye.